Hello, hello. I am
Hello.
so pleased to invite a new friend with me today. So I've had to have a lesson in how to say her name, Anna Papazoglu. Didn't do it as well. Yes, pretty
It's
good,
perfect.
hopefully.
Yes, perfect.
And Anna and I have been friends on Facebook for a little while. She's a Greek lady who studies the medicinal properties of Greek plants. And she sends me these messages periodically of these fantastic historical studies she's found about perfumery and things. And I thought, this is somebody that people would love to meet. So Anna, say hello.
Hello. Hello. I'm so happy to be here with you. I mean, I've always wanted to chat more with you. We have so much to share, and but apparently we're both very much interested in ancient Greece, and I should say that you are as Greek as I am.
It's so lovely. Anna just taught me how to say her name, and I just went, "That's the past life coming through." She went, "Actually, I think it is."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and your work with the Melissa is only proof that yes,
You know, I mean,
you
for
do have
fear,
some connection to ancient Greek.
I do. I
Yeah.
definitely think I do. And for fear of hijacking your talk, when I was doing that work, I mean, people always used to say, "Oh, you do this kind of spiritual shamanic work, and there's a remembering to it." And I was like, "Is there though? Is there?" But when did that, I definitely was remembering things that I'd done before, and I can't explain them in any other way. So the only other connection I can say is apparently my blood group does come from that area of the world. But any more than that, I don't know. So I thought that was quite interesting to find out.
Well, yeah, I honestly think that there's a connection. Well, ancient Greek mythology is the mythology better known to the Western world, if you like. So it's quite common to have people from other countries digging into ancient Greek mythology, but you've done this in a way that signifies you really understand them. So,
Well, 5 years of it eating, sleeping, breathing, sleeping it.
well, it doesn't. No. I'm not talking about time. I'm not talking about effort. I'm not talking about years. I'm talking about how in tune you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a great deal. Thank you. So I have this wonderful vision of these priestesses as these women that were shapeshifters as bees and plants and hovering over these amazing plants of Greece and specifically Crete. In my brain, there was a lot of stuff went in Crete with the Minoans and how the bees interacted with the plants. And so I'm so excited to talk to somebody who really engages with plants on that level. So tell us a bit about the research that you're doing into the Greek plants.
Okay, well, first of all, you mentioned Crete. Crete is the biodiversity hotspot for plants. Yeah. Okay, so don't forget that. It's very important. And it also has endemic species that are unique to Crete, and that's also very important. So, well, when I started off studying aromatherapy, the first thing I did is that I would read about essential oils, from all over the world, and I would read through recipes, which, by the way, I find highly overestimated. I mean, I don't agree with recipes. I mean, let me get this. Oh, no, just
Agreed.
Thank you. So anyway, so I was just collecting oils, and at some point I became a maniac collecting essential oils from all over the world, which is wrong in terms of sustainability. It doesn't make any sense.
Reaching to the converted.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, but no.
You're absolutely right. It's like having a library that you can't leave alone, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the same thing. I've been doing the same thing. I've been collecting oils. Then at some point, I became a bit, conservation aware. I realized that maybe we put unnecessary stress, over harvesting plants that we don't really need, because we have endemic species that can do the same work. And, you know, and then it's the whole thing with wholesalers and retailers and blah, 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 blah. And I don't like that. So I said, okay, what about trying to source locally, and how local can locally be? So let's have a look at the endemic plants and the and see what the medicinal properties of them are, and see if you can substitute you know, exotic, I mean, oils or threatened species. I'm also the Hermit Institute ambassador of Greece, so sustainability is, yes,
Wonderful.
work. So and I started narrowing it down to endemic species, and this took me back to ancient Greece. And it took me back to ancient Greece because thankfully we have loads of information on the medicinal properties of the Greek plants, thanks to Theophrastus and Dioscorides. When we have the father of botany, the father of pharmacognosy, we have, you know, the ancient doctors like Hippocrates and Galen. They all used their herbs, but they didn't use essential oils as such. I mean, because it was herbalism. They would use the plants and grind it into paste, or drank with as a herbal tea, or mixed with honey, or
honey and wine as well. They love their wine.
And wine, exactly. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yet there were some things to find out about the medicinal properties, and there were things to, you know, translate into modern aromatherapy. So I started digging in to the pharmaceutical properties and translating how these, the properties of the herbs themselves could, you know, apply to modern day aromatherapy. But that was only half of it, actually, because it was missing the energetics.
Aha! So I want to say, do you know my friend Debbie Atterby?
Yes.
So she is doing really similar work to you with Australian plants.
I know.
Really,
yes.
When I spent a lot of time with her, I was absolutely gobsmacked by how clever it was, overlaying this information to just kind of go, forget the rest of the world, what's on my doorstep. I love that you're doing the same thing.
I'm doing the exact same thing, actually. I'm working on a case study now on a very small island. See, it could be medicinally self-sustained.
On a plant?
No, on a
very particular
small island.
Really?
What grows there? Let's see what they can do. And
amazing.
So yes.
So what would you say are the key, if you would say, right, these are the Greek herbs or the Greek plants, what are your main ones?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, oregano and thyme are everywhere. I mean, everywhere. and we have a couple of different species of each, right? And Crete has its own, and so on and so forth. Crete has this wonderful cistus. We also have yarrow, a couple of species of yarrow. We have millefolium, but we also have other species of yarrow. And yarrow has been known since mythology, as you probably know. So, I mean, the story that yarrow and the Trojan War dates back to 13th century BC. And this is something we also need to take into account, that mythology has vital information for what we do.
Oh, most certainly so, yeah.
Because mythology was a way of teaching. And although we do have some variations in the myths, but I mean, you can derive very important information from mythology. Now, the downside of reading translated mythology is that the etymology of the words usually have secret meaning. So speaking, but being a native speaker, eases things for me. it's a lot easier to understand the subtext.
Yeah.
So,
I find that a lot when I'm looking at Egyptian stuff.
yes.
Their level of punning, their symbols was that word has a similar word that means different thing, but actually we're going to say it makes the same thing. And when you see it, we see it over and over and over. And I think it takes people a while to realize, like, when you're listening to a myth, you're not necessarily listening to a story, you're listening to a lesson. Yes,
exactly. That's it. And this is why I keep telling you that you're very Greek. I mean, because you're actually listening to us. Yes, a lesson. That's it. Yeah. So back to the energetics, because well, that's what we've been talking to each other about off camera. I mean, the well-scented oils and how they were used as ointments or in rituals and so on and so forth, which is the energetics. Now, this is a bit tricky, because whereas for medicinal purposes, ancient Greeks used endemic species. When it came to scented oils, they traded. They imported. So they imported from the Middle East and from Egypt. So you get a great part of the energetics coming from plants that are not endemic.
Good point. I never thought of that. That's a really good point. Yeah.
So, and this is again where well, at least what I'm trying to do is translate this information and translate the information of herbalism, translate the information of the energetics, and reapply it into modern day aromatherapy. So
and I think something that's really missing in modern day aromatherapy is the understanding that if you are using an ancient piece of information about a plant, you cannot only use the back of the physical.
Because absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Ritual and medicine were the same thing, weren't
they? Exactly. Because all ancient cultures, I mean, it's not just Greek, the Greek culture, but it's just that I'm Greek, so I'm more comfortable with it. I mean, obviously, did not separate the body from the soul. I mean, so I mean, you can't heal one without the other. I mean, we can't even speak in terms of one and the other. It's one. It's the whole. So I mean, you cannot blend. This is how I view aromatherapy. Because in aromatherapy we have, the evidence-based research on the one hand, which is what I studied, actually, and I still study. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's very, very important. And on the other hand, you have the energetics, but it's not one hand and the other hand. It's one thing.
Yeah.
And if the oil is right, the chemistry and the energetics will agree. If one of the two is off, it's not the right oil. It's not the right choice. So it's just recombining something that got separated at some point through history and putting it back where it belongs. So
I think the thing that brought that home to me the most was studying the Oracle of Delphi. And I spent a long, long time studying the oracles. And when she brought forth her prophecy, she breathed the pneuma, and she brought the gases. We know that it's ethylene now, but it wasn't known then. Came up through her lower mouth, through her vagina, and spoke the word of the god. That was called pneuma, but pneuma is breath, simple as breath. So this idea that she was doing something otherworldly, she was using her breath in an unusual way. That was all. And I thought that was really extraordinary to think about.
You could equate the ancient Greek pneuma, this is how it sounds like in Greek, pneuma, with prana.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
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 That's the same thing, actually.
Yeah, and so while we're all talking about how things have a profound effect on the respiratory system, then that should give us inklings about other stuff that they could do.
Yes. So this is where I'm at the moment. I mean, I'm trying to find that, you know, it was as if at some point we missed a link on the chain, in the chain, something you know, got us, you know, a bit off. So
I always say it was Descartes. When Descartes
exactly, yes, I just didn't want to name any names, but yeah.
But it was, wasn't it? As soon as everybody went, oh yes, a mind is separate. Yes. Then that was the end of that way of thinking of medicine, wasn't it? And it's really interesting now we're starting to learn about neurotransmitters. We're like,
exactly.
Mind in our body. Interesting.
Yeah, yes. The psychoneuroimmunology is bringing it back into the picture since the 80s, and that's a very good thing. But yeah, it was Descartes. I just didn't want to specify that much. But okay, I understand this. I mean, look at what European rationalism had to face. Okay, I understand this. But okay, well, sometimes from black you need to go to white. But I mean, okay, yeah, it happens. It happens. I majored in history in college. I kind of remember things like that. But okay, yes. I mean, you have a situation and you just overreact to it. Perfectly normal, we understand. But by now, we can just find the, you know, the golden standard, the perfect shade of gray. I mean, we're just reunited. I mean, we don't have to be, you know. So yeah, that's what I'm working on, and that's what I enjoy. Greece is a biodiversity hotspot. Crete is a wonderful biodiversity hotspot. We have plants like dittany in Crete, for example, which is catching the attention of many aromatherapists lately. And we have wonderful plants that were not yet thoroughly researched. So, but plants that are known to us because we use them, like sea fennel, for example, is which is a great antioxidant. Is a plant we use in our cooking. We add it in our salads. I mean, it's very close to us. But I mean, as an essential oil, it's not very well researched yet, not thoroughly. It is researched, but you know, like geosmastic. Perfect, yeah, which is also very interesting. So we have all sorts of plants, and we have information from antiquity for several of them, and we have new ways to see them. And of course, we have our share of threatened species, but we have also plants that are not endangered. So, and there are possible, you know, substitutions for threatened species important. So yeah,
and the fact that the herbs, you know, they come back fast, don't they? You know, it's fast turnover. So if you've got like a herb that can replace itself, as opposed to a great big tree that has to die and be 60 years old to make oil, makes no sense at all, does it, to say, oh, that's the oil I'm going to use, when this one will do a perfectly good job as well.
Yes, and we don't have that many that are derived from heartwood, for example. So I mean, that won't be a problem. Yeah, most of them are herbs, and most of them, yes, yeah.
So what I'm interested in is, I think everybody has their own way of approaching an essential oil. That's what I know about it, and that's the vision. So some people, it's like medical astrology. Some people, it's like they know the chemistry or they blend that way. What's your way into an oil? How do you perceive it, first of all?
There's not just one way.
No.
No. I mean, I just no. circle around it in all possible ways, because if one way is off, then I mean something's not well, because it's whole, it's its chemistry, it's its medicinal properties, it's the energetics, it's how it makes you, and it's this very personal way of how you perceive it, and there you have to be a bit careful when giving it to someone else, but that's the only one that you have to be careful about. But yeah, I mean, I spend time with them. I read about them, of course. Yes, I have the GCMS, and I understand their chemistry, but I spend time with them as well.
So which comes first, the GCMS or holding and spending time with the oil?
Well, let me put it that way. I usually get the oils because for some reason it's cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have an honest answer of why am I purchasing oils. I mean, by now, my refrigerator is almost like your shelf. Yeah, but mind you, I mean, Greece and Athens is very hot during the summer.
Very hot at the moment, isn't it?
So everything is in the refrigerator. Yeah, that's why I don't have shelves with oils.
No, that's right.
You have a house.
Also, say again.
No, you said you have a house.
Yes, yes.
Where?
Where's my house?
No. I got confused. I was talking about Greek weather, and you said I have a house. I didn't hear what you said.
No, that's not what I said. What I was going to say was I have a secret that most of those are not full. So they So because they're right in front of a window, so they would oxidize. So yeah, I don't need to have them in a fridge like you do, because to be honest, we have no summer this year. But yes, I absolutely understood. In the heat that you've got, you'd need to keep them out of sunlight and stuff, wouldn't you?
So, so in all honesty, I believe that anything I need is already in my fridge. I don't need to get a new oil, probably. However, no, I know the more I dig in or go down rabbit holes, then I just say, well, I have to have this. I have to have this. And why? I don't know, Elizabeth. I don't have an explanation of it, but I just say I have to.
Yes.
And this is how I get them. And then I get to meet them. And I'm saying, no, hello, I was expecting you. Oh, thank you for being here. So let's spend time together. That's
beautiful. And that really does feel like that energy that I see of these bee women, you know, just sitting with the plants. Just tell me what I'm supposed to know today, you know, and really reading them.
Okay, well, I'll tell you a short story. Before I got into aromatherapy, I was a photographer. I was a professional photographer for about 20 years. And, well, you know, I had an advertising photography studio, which was boring. Yeah, but, and the thing I loved about photography, I mean, what kept me going is that every once in a while I would get out of my studio and photograph plants. And I would do micro photography on plants, and then I did a huge exhibition. And I realized that what keeps me sane are plants. But at the time, I didn't know what to do with my love for the plants. But I mean, I already knew the connection I had with endemic plants because I was working around here. So, and now I see, wow, and now I understand what was going on back then. But I just needed to go to the plants, you know.
So what's going to be the end game with your research? Book, course? What are you going to do with it?
I don't know. I let it take me wherever it wants to take me.
I love that answer. Because people always say to me, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. It's for me.
I mean, the thing is that I still don't know how it's going to turn out, because I just keep falling into rabbit holes, and and each one, well, the next one is even more exciting than the previous one. So I mean, I might want to rethink some things. I might want to divert from my original goal. So, in honestly, I don't know.
No, the plants will tell you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the plants will tell
Don't
me.
say don't go on to Melissa. She'll boss you around till she push you down under the underworld.
Oh, by the way, I mean, since you like Melissa that much, I mean, you should see that.
I like her.
Sorry?
She and I are no longer friends.
Yes.
No, I do, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done. What were you going to say? Sorry.
No. I mean, if you look at Melissa from a strictly, chemical point of view, it's amazing how different batches I have found of Greek Melissa, and some are very, they're like, okay, I'm here, and you shut up, all of you, I'm just here. I mean, it's and some, I mean, some of them are, I mean, I felt they were too powerful to put in a blend. I mean, they would just,
I can imagine how that's so. I tell you, the one thing that I found the most extraordinary when I was working with the plant, not necessarily working with the knowledge, so I think it was, you tell me, Hungary, Elizabeth of, I want to say Hilda. Anyway, gone. Name will come back to me in a minute. So, medieval herbalist lady who was a nun, her name was Hildegard of Bingen. She'd said you could cut it 3 times through the year. So I did that, but I did it in different parts of the bush. So I cut one part short, and then the next season I cut another. So you got like, and what I found was the plant has a maiden, mother, and crone aspect.
Okay.
So, like now, mine, I stay right away from her at the moment. I've had enough. But so she's all out in flower, but the leaves look ragged and yellowy, and if you smell them, the citral's gone. And she's just kind of, that's probably that distillation that you were saying. Oh, I'm here, but yeah. But if you get it really early in spring, she's just like, oh, let me play. She
can be
changes
so
a lot.
diverse. Yeah, she can be so diverse.
It does change a lot.
She's amazing. Yeah. But all oils are, and all plants, of course, but I mean, essential oils are alive and dynamic. I mean, and they do change. But I mean, from Greek Melissa from batch to batch, I mean, she can be a completely different thing.
It's amazing,
and sometimes she really wants to cooperate, and sometimes she's like, okay, yeah, tossing you around, and and muffing everyone else, and like, I'm here. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I tell you an oil that I love that hardly anybody speaks about, and I bet you've probably got quite a lot of information about, marjoram.
Oh, yeah,
that's a real Greek one, isn't it? And I absolutely love marjoram. And
I use
never
marjoram.
Anybody talks about it.
I use marjoram a lot.
What sort of things do you use it for?
Oh, well, from a pharmacological aspect, I'm very interested in its antihistaminic properties, because it's well researched in tea tree. I mean, they terpene for all antihistaminic properties, but again, I mean, you have it in marjoram. So I have used it for respiratory conditions extensively, but I also use it in I've used it for insomnia, I've used it for sadness, I've used it for many things. I love it.
Yeah, I agree about insomnia. I think it's fascinating. It almost realigns the circadian system, doesn't it? It brings the body clock into alignment again. It's like not relaxing. It's not a relaxing oil, but it does really make you get and like so. Yeah, insomnia rather than getting to sleep, if that makes sense. Like insomnia being a long period of time over several days. Very good at being able to kind of just go, oh no, this is the time you go to sleep. I love it. And the other thing that I find it fascinating for, and it became a real strange thing that I would mull over and over again when I was doing the Melissa work, was how it is an aphrodisiac. So it turns you off, brings the libido down. And I kept thinking about
Patricia Davis suggests that, speaks about celibacy and marjoram in her book. Yes.
Who did you say did?
Patricia Davis.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So you can see a family tree there. So I was taught by my mom, and she was trained by Patricia Davis. So that's a direct lineage of that information coming through.
Yes.
But yeah. And so all of these like rituals that they were doing were very much about like fertility and what have you. And I kept thinking, no, you've picked wrong oils there. If that were me, I think the Greeks would know about marjoram. Yeah. And so what about yarrow? Tell me some thoughts about yarrow.
Well, we have a couple of different species, but I mean, we all know the mythology surrounding yarrow, right? I mean, yarrow was it was endemic to Mount Pelion, where the centaurs live, and it was taught to Achilles by the wisest of the centaurs, Chiron. And Chiron actually is the one used in the Jungian archetype of the wounded healer. So you probably know that. And so it was very well known since the 13th century BC for its wound healing properties. But I agree that on an energetic level, I agree with Felicity Warner that it is a very, very powerful protector. I mean, I find it very protective as an oil energetically. Now, the medicinal properties are very well recorded. I mean, there are loads of papers out about how you can use yarrow, and it's a wonderful oil. It's a wonderful oil. Now, the Greek yarrow I have is blue. So it would be CT hamazoline, right? But the chemical constituents again are a bit off. I mean, if you take a book, for example, like Fisher and Young is a good example, where they have, the ranges, like for every chemical constituent, and the range would be from to. What I found with Greek oils is that most of the times they don't match the ranges given. I mean,
That's really interesting.
Oh, I have I'll give you an example. I have a bottle of Origanum vulgaris, and the carvacol content is 91.3.
What?
Yeah.
You would never, so why would you ever want to use tea tree? You never would you? I mean, that's just astonishing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not within the recorded limits, right?
No. Yeah.
And this is subspecies hirtum, by the way, from northern Greece. And then I have another one, which is Origanum vulgare, same subspecies, hirtum again, from south of Greece, and the carvacol content is 26%.
Oh, odd. That's a bit like the deviation in helichrysum, isn't it, as well?
Yes, and we also have different species of helichrysum, but this is the thing, we have great deviations. So, I mean, subspecies or even country of origin saying that it's Greek. Mind you, Greece is a fairly small country. So saying that this comes from Greece and the subspecies is whatever, means nothing in terms of chemistry. I mean, the variations can be amazing, amazing. And this is something I'm also looking into, because it has, I'm trying to narrow it down to areas, you know.
Okay.
Yes. And so, and then I'm trying to figure out if people, well, we don't know. We do have some information, not a lot of information from ancient Greece, but unfortunately, we don't have enough information from folklore medicine. I mean, the tech, I mean, the traditional indigenous knowledge is lost in many places. So I'm trying to see what I can find and see what people use the herbs for in specific areas, and if they use them in different ways in other areas, and if this translates to these wide chemical varieties I've been finding around Greece.
What are people's attitudes to herbal medicine in Greece? Because like the religion's gone, hasn't it, completely? So are people in?
Oh, like, you mean the ancient Greek religion?
Well, the ancient Greek religion's gone, yes.
Of course, yes.
So that mindset has changed, hasn't it? Just to give a perception of how mindset changes. But so are people very invested in folklore medicine, or are they very much like, well, the doctor says I should do this, so I should do this? What's it's the same thing all over the Western world, I think, isn't it? Yeah, no, the doctor said, yes, absolutely. Now, and I'm not saying that this is not important, right? I mean, I'm not saying we're going to substitute anything, but no, it's focused on the body and on modern medicine. So yeah. And that is also how the folklore gets lost, isn't it? That it hasn't been passed from mouth to mouth, because people have just gone, oh, I'll go and get a pill instead. So that's
exactly. Yeah. And you know what? Well, the holders of the knowledge, the folklore knowledge, but did not pass it on that easily. I mean, they would train their successors, but they would not, teach the community. So that's one of the reasons it's also lost. I mean, I found areas in Greece that where there's absolutely no knowledge left. Yeah.
I'm thinking about what you were saying about.
We need to invent this as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you said about Felicity and the yarrow. So when I was studying the Minoans on Crete, did a lot of work with the necropolis Archetypra at Eluses, and they had, so for people that don't know, I'm sure that probably you do, but just for people that don't know, this is an extremely ancient site, not that far from Knossos, but had been completely overlooked in the big excavations. And it turned out to be that this necropolis had been or done the death rituals of people for over 3,000 years. So there was 3,000 years of human history on this one site. And when you read the book, there are astonishing things to do with the bees in there and the burials and stuff. But this is unrelated to that. But what they uncovered there was a burial of a decapitated soldier. And he had been buried exactly the same way as was explained in Homer's Iliad or Odyssey, Iliad for Troy, and it's in the description of how Achilles had slaughtered an enemy soldier because he had killed his friend Patroclus. And so this idea of this being like the moment, history doesn't really bring that moment forward up until then, but now suddenly, because we know Achilles probably did do that in retribution for his friend, that brings a completely new dynamic to how you can understand yarrow. That protection is not benign. It's absolutely cutting dead. And so the idea of how it's so good, if you've been wounded, you know, I will absolutely sort this out. I think it's absolutely fascinating once you start to understand how the myth's been told and see it. Yeah.
What a lovely perspective. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I feel the same way about Yarrow. I just didn't know that detail. So thank you.
Yeah, so you should look it up at Archetypes, and there's some videos about it on YouTube. And the man that was headed up the excavations is now the director of the Acropolis Museum.
Okay.
I think his name is Stampedoulis, and he is the most amazing storyteller, and he tells the story so well, and it really brings the Homeric myth to life. But also when you think, right, okay, so potentially this might be about Yarrow, this might be a teaching about it, because Achilles, you suddenly start to feel the magic of the planet reweaving again. It's really interesting. Yeah.
And there's also one more parameter that's very important here. It's when we think of the past, when we study the past, we view the past. Well, we mainly view the past. I mean, that's it. I mean, something happened in history, and we prioritize the senses and yes, and vision. Just went to the top, and I realized that as a photographer, maybe this was the final reason why I just gave up photography. I just realized that vision is so overrated. But we do not we do not experience the past in our other senses. I mean, we don't use our scent, and we don't touch, and so the way we view the past is very, very confined. Actually, there's a book you will love. I'm absolutely certain, and it's from a great archaeologist. His name is Yanis Hamilakis, and it's also available in English. And the book is Archeology and the Senses, and he talks about how we have just excluded the senses, the other senses, from the way we understand the past, and we just have, you know, artifacts in museums behind glass windows, and we just get to look at them, and that's that. So the plants are bringing in our senses to understanding the past, and it's very, very important. I mean, if you,
I don't think, maybe hearing does the same thing when you hear music, but this combination of scent and taste really transports you through time, doesn't it?
yes.
That doesn't happen with visual, doesn't really happen with touch very much, but music and smell definitely can't they?
So it's very important to have the plants, because the plants linked to history or mythology will offer us extra senses to understand.
And this is what I found so fascinating when I was looking at the mysteries of Eluses, because these were the priestesses of Eluses. And looking at the Eleusinian mysteries, people had looked at fact. And so, for example, there's a part, in fact, different ritual, Thesmophria, that the women on the second day of the ritual, it's an all-women ritual, and they sit on the Lygos leaves. So Lygos is Vitex agnos castus. And so when you read like the commentaries, they'll say, so this was to deal with their sexuality, to bring their libido down, because they were not going to have sex for several days because they were in this ritual. And I was like, well, how was a sitting on a leaf going to do anything like that? Somebody had read a textbook, but because they hadn't got an understanding of how a plant works, they were like, so that's what that is. No, you could steam it, maybe that would. You could use it as a pestering, maybe that would, but just sitting on the leaves isn't going to do that, is it? So you've got like hundreds of years worth of sort of historical archaeology where people have gone, so I'm finding that piece of information, but because they haven't been a herbalist, because they haven't worked with the energetics of the medicine, there are massive chunks missing out of the interpretation right across the way, isn't there?
Yeah.
It is really fascinating. It's an exciting time, really, to be looking at this stuff, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think if you look at Egyptian archaeology in particular, they're really getting into sound. You know, they really want to understand, when you go into a temple, what difference did the sound make? What's the shape of this temple, and how is it aligned to the resonance? And when we understand, oh, okay, so they must have been playing that noise. Oh, wow, feel how this resonates around you. And so that work really lends credence to the rest of the sensory work, doesn't it? Just, you know, it's further down the track, so much to explore. In terms
to explore, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of archaeology, do you know, I'm trying to remember if I saw it in one of the papers that you sent me. I think it was. Maybe it wasn't, but I think it was. That they found some kind of perfume in Crete, and it was for the first time they were able to do like an archaeological analysis on the herbs that were used, and because there was still oil. That's right, there was still oil in the. That's what it was. I can tell you it wasn't what you sent me. It was when I went to see the Minoans exhibition at the Ashmolean. And in the book, they were talking about there'd been a fragment of a great big crater or a big vase. And they'd been able to do an analysis of the oil that residue had been left behind. And what she was saying was, it's a unique situation of time and place. If that had happened in Egypt, the heat would have destroyed it. The aridity would have wiped out the chemical constituents. If it had been in this country, it would have gone mouldy. But because it was Crete, they had this beautiful, perfect climate to preserve it for 2,500 years, 3,000 years. And I just thought that was a fascinating sort of snapshot into Greece of how things were timeless, you know, and so much to do with the fauna, the flora, the climate, all of it.
Well, regrettably, the flora is changing because the climate is changing. Well, at least, I mean, the climate has changed a lot, regrettably, and this affects flora and fauna, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still trying to preserve what we can.
Yeah. Oh, I've loved this, Anna. Thank you so much.
You should visit.
Well, so that actually was what I was doing yesterday. I was looking on the travel agency, but because I don't know if you know, I in a couple of weeks I start my degree in classical studies.
Yes, yeah.
So I shall have to, won't I? I shall have to do field trips, and the taxman will have to pay, I feel. Before you go, is there anything that you would like to tell people about any work that you're doing or anything like that?
Well, I am in Athens. I work as an aromatherapist. I hate the idea of recipes, obviously. Well, we talked about that, yeah. And I'm not. We have so much to learn it from ancient Greece. We've just got it a bit wrong. I mean, I remember that when I first, joined in, the conferences and everyone, they were all talking about archetypes. I mean, archetypes from Greek mythology are a big thing. Now, the archetypes are very slippery slope because people are unique. And if you try, and if you try to, cramp up the information you hear into an archetype, you're probably not hearing well, or you just, you interpret, or you don't, you need to listen like a blank page,
I agree with that. To an extent, I agree with the archetypes, but I do agree with what you're saying, because I think also the more that you research an archetype, the more you realize that there are so many different contradictions within it. So for example, Aphrodite, you ask somebody who Aphrodite is, they'll say the goddess of love, goddess of sex, but then start looking a bit deeper, and then suddenly there are so many different aspects to her.
Yeah.
The archetype itself is a slippery thing, isn't it?
it's a very slippery thing, and we always need to check if it's us, you know, no, but giving it qualities that are actually not there.
Yes.
But yes, so we need to tread lightly when it comes to, you know, generalizations like archetypes or any generalization about ancient Greece in general, because it was, yeah, I mean, it's more like food for thought rather than certainty, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the more you listen to Freud, you listen to Jung, you listen to any kind of psychologist, psychiatrist, you know, that everybody's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. You're not just one thing, aren't you? You could be working on yourself forever and never really understand who you are. So how can somebody else really understand you? Yeah.
Yes. But when we have clients or patients, depends on what country you're in, or therapevomeni as we call them, and that's an interesting thing also. But we don't call people clients. We are not allowed to call people patients either, I mean, under law, but we call them therapevomeni, and therapevomenos means the one undergoing therapy.
I love it.
Yeah. Which is what is happening now. And therapy is a Greek word, and therapist is a Greek word, but actually therapist, the Greek word therapist, translates to healer rather than therapist. So
isn't that funny? Because those words go in two different ways, don't they? You know, you think
exactly,
therapy, and that's the psychiatrist's chair, and healer is suddenly all very woo-woo, isn't it? It's very funny.
Exactly, but I mean, the wounded healer, Karen, was a therapeutis in Greek. So because therapy and healing were not differentiated. It's what we were talking before about, you know, the energetics and the chemistry of the body and the soul and blah blah blah. It's the same thing. I mean, we didn't have two words.
No.
Therapy and healing were one. So
that's really fascinating.
Okay, so and the way we perceive things has a lot to do with our native language. So that's what I'm working on. I
cannot wait to read it. I really can't. I think it will be so fascinating.
It's one thing, it's therapy and healing, it's ancient Greek medicine and energetics, it's the endemic plants and the thing that nature provides what you need at your doorstep, and Debbie is very, very right. Yes, I also believe that everything's at our doorstep.
So much for people to think about. I mean, this, I have to say, this month in our masterclass, Adam and I have been talking about like really extreme plants like Palo Santo, you know, and I was talking about it with love, but I kept saying, but I don't think you should use it. But I don't think you should use it. And it's like, I'm sure, given that he is involved in selling oils, he must have been like, shut up. But everything about everything like be like in me says, but think about the plants. You've got to think about the plants. And it is a dichotomy now. It does feel like a paradox to me. Yeah. It's lovely that somebody else feels the same way. Anna, thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I love chatting with you.
Stay on the line, but say bye-bye to everybody.